Hey guys, we are back for another MOTU Classics review, an older set of figures, not just one figure, but two figures. These are the Chase figures from 2014, I believe, and at times you've probably seen them up on the wall somewhere, but we have got the Chase set of Loo-Kee and Kowl from Mattel here. So these guys were one of the sets that you kind of had to be online at the right time to get them. I know they were available in early access. I think these were anyway, and they went up during the whole end of days for Mattel as well. They had extra stock of Chase figures somehow. Go figure. So we have got Loo-Kee and we've got Kowl here. So these guys are a couple characters that I'm very fond of because I really dig the She-Ra show. Loo-Kee in particular is one of my favorites. So we're gonna take a closer look at these guys and see what they got going on. All right, guys. So here they are, and this isn't going to be a very long video because, as you might imagine, there's really not a great deal to talk about here because there's just not a lot of plastic on the table right now. That said, these are some actually fairly integral characters to the overall She-Ra Princess of Power cartoon, so it makes sense that they would finally get figures. And while we did get Kowl in the form of his vintage toy version in one of the weapons packs, it took until this Chase set to get the cartoon accurate version, and I think this one looks arguably the better version. I never really cared for the vintage look of that toy, but I love Kowl's look in the show. And then Loo-Kee is honestly one of my favorite characters from all of She-Ra. My daughter absolutely loses her mind when she sees this little guy, so we have to hide him, which, you know, honestly that's kind of his thing, so it's not too weird that we hide this guy around the house. And you know, when she finds him, it's always kind of an exciting thing. So we've got these little figures here, and they are incredibly small. Just for comparison's sake, you know, here's something MOTU related. We've got a you know, one of those bootleg MOTU minifigures, the Lego ones. So they're pretty much just the same height as a Lego minifig. They're, you know, about 2 inches tall roughly. So they are very, very small, but they are relatively in scale at the same time with your MOTU Classics figures. So we have got very basic figures in general. They have very little articulation. Kowl's got moving arms, and his head moves a little bit, but as you can understand, his ear wing things are going to get in the way. I do think the sculpt for Kowl is very much on point. I think it looks perfect. It's very cartoon accurate. I do love the rainbow colors in his ears. I think it's fantastic. And in general, he's a solid figure. Like I said, there's just not a lot to talk about here. He is accurate to the show, and that's ultimately what I care about, and I think he comes across very well in this little minifigure. That said, we already had a Kowl, and we had him for a little while too, so he was new but not as exciting as Loo-Kee here. And this guy is really, really good. He's a fun little character. You know, his whole shtick in the show was that he was hidden somewhere in the episode, and then at the end of the show he would come out, give you a little moral, and, you know, tell you where he was in the show. And I think they did a great job of rendering him in plastic. I think this is a fantastic sculpt. He has a little bit more articulation than Kowl. He's got a swiveling head, and he has more movement because of his sculpt. He's got swiveling arms, and then his tail can rotate as well. So, you know, you're not going to really be able to do a whole lot with the articulation on these guys, but at the same time, you don't really need to either. They're basically just meant to stand around and look fun and look cool. And Loo-Kee's paint job, I think, is exceptionally well done. Overall, I have zero issues with either of these figures, save for the whole Chase aspect of their release. Now, in addition to the two figures, we do have something extra here, and this is specific to Kowl. So obviously I've got him up on something, and this is the flight stand that's included with the figure. And it's very similar to what we see with some of the vehicles, just obviously scaled down and kind of different. So he's got two pegs on his feet. You can pop the peg in either foot, and it sort of mimics him hovering in the air. I don't think the idea translates into physical form as well as, you know, it sounds, but this flight stand is of course kind of important because he is flying all the time. I mean, he's always in the air, so it's a thing. I'm glad they included it. I kind of wish there was a better way to execute this, and I don't think I'm alone in that thought, but it's a nice inclusion. And of course, I'm always up for extra stuff, especially when it kind of makes things look a little closer to how he would have been represented in the show a lot of times. So yeah, like I said, not a great deal to talk about here. Just a quick one that I kind of wanted to get out for a while, and I never sat down to really do a proper video on these guys. They are fun little figures. I really, really, really dig Loo-Kee. He's a fantastic character in general, but I think he translates to figure form very well. Kowl is again rendered in plastic quite well, but of course we already had this mold from the weapons pack. This is just a refresh with a different version to mimic the cartoon colors, which I'm also okay with. The only real downside to these figures is that for some it was difficult to get them because they were the chase figures. Of course they did go back up on Matty Collector when the whole Matty Collector end of days thing occurred, so you might have been able to get them again anyway. So that's going to do it for this look at the Masters of the Universe Classics Loo-Kee and Kowl 2-pack from Mattel. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.